Welcome to the Catbird Quilts. I'm Kathy Martin. Today's video, Kaffe Fassett fabric, and me and the thrift store. And let me tell you, I have a lot to say about it. So stay with me. If you like Kaffe Fassett fabric, this is the video for you. Let me tell you, oh my goodness, I don't even know where to start. Last year, I got a grab bag of fabric from a quilt store called Crimson Tate. And in it, there were, in this fabric bundle, there were some Kaffe Fassett fabrics. And I said on a previous video that it's so far out of my wheelhouse. And honestly, it still kind of is. And I made a quilt with some of those fabrics and thrift store shirts and had a great time with it. It was very vibrant, very colorful, so fun. It's actually now one of the favorite quilts that I've made, one of my favorite quilts that I've made. Fast forward to now, and one of my patrons from Patreon gifted some Kaffe Fassett fabric to me. And she shared it with me and said, you said previously that Kaffe fabric is outside of your wheelhouse. And so I'm going to send you some, and I want to see what you can do with it. Kind of like have fun. And I love a challenge, like throw down the gauntlet and let's do this, shiz. And so I got this fabric and the fabric's behind me. And I did not know when to expect it. So I went to the UPS store to check my box and had this gorgeous fabric and sat in my car and opened up the package and was like, I literally went, oh my God. Oh, it's like the ooh and ah. And I happened to be out and about, and it was half off day at the Salvation Army thrift store, which now it's only 25% off, but I'm not salty about it. And I had just looked at these fabrics and was like, oh, I can't wait to get home and think about it. And it was not even in my mind really, but it had just happened. And I went into the thrift store and I start doing my click, 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 no, click, click, no, click. And when I tell you I found 4 shirts that go with these fabrics. I found 4 shirts that go with these fabrics within 10 minutes. No kidding, within 10 minutes of opening this package. So of course, now here the wheels are turning. And so I want to tell you all about it. I want to talk about Kaffe fabrics. First, I want to say I think it was the very first video. It may have been the second. I mispronounced Kaffe Fassett. and many of you Kaffe lovers wanted to make sure that I knew how to say it and corrected me. And I'm thankful for the correction. I do not want to butcher a prominent quilt fabric designer's name ever, but especially moving forward. So got the name corrected and also quickly got an education in Kaffe Fassett fabrics. Now, I can say it now, but I still struggle with the combination of the words together. So from here forward, it's either Kaffe or KF. So I don't accidentally butcher it moving forward. So I want to talk about Kaffe fabrics because they are so riveting and colorful and compelling, but also still not in my wheelhouse. And then I'm going to show you all these because you Kaffe lovers, and you guys are a wonderful bunch of people. And the people who love Kaffe fabrics love Kaffe fabrics. And those of us that don't are like, I don't know what to do with that. They are so colorful. It is like a celebration of color and pattern. And if you love flowers, I mean, what is not to love about these fabrics? He uses a lot of botanicals, uses a lot of inspiration from natural, so like leaves and flowers, and it's just amazing. So it's very, very colorful. Interesting combination of colors. Often there is such a wild variation even within just one fabric. So from fabric to fabric there's wild variation, but even within one print. And they are perfect if you like to fussy cut. If you don't, they can pose some challenges. There is that really crazy, I mean, I shouldn't say crazy, wild variations within even just one fabric, but definitely from fabric to fabric, often within the same line. So the colors are made to go together, but you might have just a really, so there's stripes, there's flowers, there's polka dots, there's, I don't know, like just shapes that I can't even dream of. And that can pose some challenge. Also, he has a penchant for putting colors together that would normally break the rules of putting colors together. And he is both a master and a jokester, in my opinion, of putting warm colors with cool colors. And they're very often colors that can go warm or cool anyway. And we'll talk about that more in just a minute. So what she sent me is behind me on the wall. There's a couple of other fabrics. I divided them into cools and warms. And the reason is these were the ones that spoke to me. And so I pulled these out and was like, oh my goodness. Oh gosh. Anyway, so these were the ones that spoke to me, and I decided, let's start here. And then of course I alluded to the fact that I went to the thrift store immediately after, and these were also the shirts. So let's just do it. Let's just look at them. So this one has a teal kind of background. It has brown, it has periwinkle, it has hot pink. It looks like petri dishes with bacteria and viruses growing unchecked. I'm pretty sure that's what the COVID virus, I think that's what coronavirus actually looks like if you were to zoom in. I mean, like seriously, this looks like DNA. These look like chromosomes to me. There's Dayglow pink, peachy pink in it. There's this crazy lime green. There's black, or maybe that's navy. There's a weird brown in here. Oh my goodness. But I actually love this fabric, but there's a lot going on. And this is a perfect example of if I was going to fussy cut, I could fussy cut that. I could fussy cut that. I could fussy cut that. For those of you that are maybe new to quilting and you haven't heard the term fussy cut, it is exactly what it sounds like. You cut a piece of fabric fussily, precisely just to get one design feature. So that's the first one. Ooh, I'm going to have to do this faster. We're going to be here all day, which, I mean, I have a lot to say, but dang. This one I don't have to open up. It is exactly what it looks like, which is periwinkle and turquoise. Both of these colors are cool, but when paired with different colors, like, for example, if you put turquoise with lime green, it feels totally different than if you put turquoise with a blue purpley family. So that one I don't have to open up. This one I didn't think I had to open up. Because I'm like, oh, look at that. It's got that periwinkle, it's got the turquoise. And then I did this and I was like, oh, that's got a lot of purple in it and a lot of pink. I'm like, well, and I'm like, oh, it's got green in it. So when I first saw this fabric, what I thought I was going to be doing was this, which may be what I'm doing. And then I opened it up and I was like, okay. So, but cool and pretty. And roughly a stripe, but also polka dots, but not evenly spaced polka dots. A lot of chaos going on in this, but then oddly ordered. I don't know. And this is my experience with Kaffe. A lot of people are like, I'm like, oh boy. This is called Aboriginal Dots. I love it, probably because it's more orderly than some of the other ones. It's this great color with just black dots on it, in kind of a, I don't know what makes it Aboriginal, which tells you that I don't know anything about Aboriginal anything, but I like that one a lot. I actually like all these. Here's another one. This is obviously same line, also Aboriginal dot. You can see how they really complement each other well. This makes me happy in my heart. It's, again, very orderly, which years ago, after spending a significant amount of time working on a project, I let out this very satisfied sigh. And Paul said, "Are you ready to go get that tattoo?" And I said, "What tattoo?" And he said, "The one that says, 'Order is joy.'" And if you've been with me for a while, you know that about me. I mean, it comes up every time I say that something's supposed to be random and I can't do random. It's because order is joy. This one is, I don't know what to say about this one. I really like it. He does a lot of almost like day glow. I've said that once already. The green in this is almost looks electrified. It just stands out against the purple. And there's like a mustard yellow in here. There's like a puke green. That's not the right name of that color. So here, do you see that? I'm trying not to play with my finger. There's that greeny, yellowy, and then there's a mustard in here, and then there's the Dayglow green, and then there's the Dayglow or the neon pink. What in the world? But kind of works. Kind of don't know what to do with that. So that was that one. In the same vein is this one. It has been my experience watching other people work with Kaffe, which I've watched actually a fair amount of videos where people do Kaffe fabric. He does a lot of black background. You don't see a lot of white in Kaffe fabric. Like, even if you think it's white, you'll go back and it's like pale blue. This one is a black background with that turquoisey green. Is that green? Is that turquoise? Is that, don't know. It kind of reminds me of an ocean floor a little bit. Also with the amoeba, it just like, but I like it kind of. I don't know. Anyway, so that's another one. This is, you can tell this is the same but different. And you can see where the colors overlap, but it has this is a perfect example of is this cool or is this warm? It's got orange and mustard and a very vibrant vermilion. And so I think of this as cool, but I could put this up against orange and you would say that's warm. So, well, you might not. I would. And then I saw this one. I was like, oh, that's going to go with that purple and blue. It's surprising. That's what Kaffe fabric is. It is a colorful surprise. Every fabric has a color that's surprising and a design that's surprising. And that's actually part of the thrill, I think. This one, whoa, look at these mums. Chrysanthemums, I think, we hope. I don't know my flowers very well. This is just an outstandingly bright green. What is that called? Citron? And then magentas and cornflower and turquoise and mint. Like, I would not put mint green and citron and olive green in the same fabric, but here we are. And then the last one, and I struggled with this last one, even just in considering it. It's going to be Purple Day, by the way. This one is the Cabbage Roses. Yeah, I think so. Holy mackerel, look at that. So it's predominantly green. This fabric is predominantly green, but there is a significant amount of purple And talk about electrified. Look at the veins on that cabbage rose. This is like the mansion with Maleficent in Sleeping Beauty. I mean, it's like viney and scary, you know, like, ooh, there's thorns there and it's going to get you. But then it's also lovely and like really visually pleasing. So this is what I'm working with. And so now let's talk about what I'm going to put with them. Also, before I move on, these are the cave fabrics that I had in my stash, because of course, when someone gives you fabric, the first thing that you do is see what you have to go with it. And I don't know if you can, probably you're already going, oh yeah. Because the greens are there, the periwinkles are there, the purple is obviously there. I mean, it's just really, and that is another one of the great things about Kaffe Fabrics. He has such a colorful palette that a lot of times the way you make Kaffe fabrics go with other fabrics is you just use more Kaffe fabric. So there is no other fabrics. There is only Kaffe fabrics. But it's cool and neat and visually interesting. So I'm going to incorporate my 2 fat quarters in with the ones that were gifted to me. And I want to show you some of the pairings that I came up with. And then I want to talk to you about quilt patterns. So this was a shirt that I found that day. And I immediately, of course, I had my fabric laid out on my, actually it was on the dining room table. And I was like, oh my goodness, look at that. That is like if Kaffe Fassett did solids, pretty sure that'd be one of them. So I was like, okay, well, done. Check that off the list. Then I found this one, which I actually had a debate about this one because it could go with several. So it goes with this. It also goes with this. But the one that I liked the most was actually this. I mean, that's fun. And this isn't exact, which is another thing. I feel like every step of this for me is like, oh, so the deal with Kaffe is you can't match it. Like you can, but his color palette is so distinct. You can really just do yourself a favor by just kind of getting in the neighborhood. Like, you're not going to the exact house. You're just trying to be in the general vicinity. And I liked this a lot. It's darker, obviously, and not quite as vibrant. And it's a completely different type of fabric. This is flannel or peached cotton, whereas this is obviously quilting weight cotton. But I liked that, so we're going to call that a keeper. And then I pulled this one out because this beauty was that's the third. So I found these 3 shirts and I brought them home. I actually in the store was like, ooh, look at that colorway. And look at that colorway. Whew, gorgeous. But then you see that colorway and you go, okay, wait, this is this colorway. So I put this with it. Now, again, here's the deal about the opening the fabric up. When it's like this, it's not as evident that it goes together. Do you see that? But when I opened it up this way, that is almost that teal. That's the background of the Petri dishes. Okay. All right. Cool. And that's the way I talk to myself when I'm when I'm putting fabrics together. Cool. Okay. Cool. Then, so this one is actually not a shirt. This is one of the AGF solids from that fabric bundle that Paul got me as a birthday gift. It's just the gift that keeps on giving. And I had this and was like, oh, I don't know, could go with this, but not really. Is it this? I'm not sure. So did a lot of kind of playing around with that. We'll come back to that one. Loved this fabric so much. And this is another one of those close but not exact. So I'm in the neighborhood, but I'm not exact. The thing that works about this, in my opinion, is they are the same value. So they are not the same color, and this turquoise is not exactly the same as the polka dot itself, but it's the same value. So if I took this picture and made it black and white, what would stand out would be the polka dots, not the periwinkle color is going to be in the same degree of darkness or degree of lightness as the turquoise. So I kept that. Then I was looking through my stash and found this purple. And this purple, interestingly, even though it's lighter, it goes, oh, look at this pile. It goes in between these two. And the reason is this is becoming more in the pink family, in the red purple family. This is blue that's in the purple family. And this is kind of a true purple right in the middle. It just happens to be light. And again, the thing that makes a lot of quilts interesting is that variation in value. So, and I'm learning this again and again, just all the time, learning more and more. And so I put this. And if I had not opened, I had this paired with a green, actually, and I was going more green as I went. And then I opened it up and I was like, oh, if I fussy cut that or this, how interesting. So we're going to call that a good pairing. And then I was left with some of these. I ended up treating this as if this was a solid. And this, solid print, et cetera, et cetera. But this one kind of feels like a solid. And I think it would be hard to find a fabric that is as the right color and vibrance as that. So we're gonna call that a thing. And then I kind of got down to these. And I'll be honest with you, I nixed this because it just was too complicated. Is it green? I don't know. Is it magenta? I don't know. Is it blue? So I nixed that and I was left with these. And then I went to the Goodwill and found this gloriousness, which is that cotton shot. It's purple on one side, which, I mean, my goodness, come on now. But the blue, I was looking at my colorway here and I'm going from that purpley, magenta-y purple kind of into blue and then into green. And I didn't have a blue. And then I found this shirt at the thrift store. And look at that. Now, again, so many of these, not exact. And I tend to like the exact, as you know, very precise. But this is lovely. And look how that bridges. Do you see how that bridges that? This is even here. So you're seeing this kind of colorway happen. And then I was left with, I actually had dismissed this one as two. And then I went to the thrift store, that same Goodwill where I found this cotton shot and found this shirt. And if you saw that video, you saw me, as Red Parrot said, just unadulterated joy, really. It was just like my whole face lit up. And so look at this. Now, I will tell you, I will be honest with you, that I don't necessarily love, none of these have a black background really. This one does, and this one does. This is very distinctly black. So I have some concerns about how that may look in the end. And actually, this is kind of like the reverse of this. This is actually a little more blue. than green. And this one is a little bit more green. But because of that, it's close. Gosh, it's close. And this one is a little more muted. So it makes it a little complicated to do that kind of gradient / ombre. And then I had this one that I had pulled because to me, that bridges that. And when I first got this, it was opened up differently. And I was like, I can just fussy cut it. And I don't know what I'm going to do yet. Actually, I have a plan. But look at that. So it works on this side and it works here and it works here. The only place it doesn't really work is here. So this won't get used. It's out of there. You're out of here. So this is now what I'm working with. Actually, I think I go back and forth on this one too. Does it go here? We're going to put it here. And again, because, and this is the masterful part of Kaffe Fabrics, there is a thread of similarity between his prints and colors. And so this was what I ended up with. And I'm like, all right. And I think it's just remarkable that so many of these are shirts. So out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 fat quarters, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shirts, which is no small thing. I mean, finding a single shirt that matches the Kaffe fabric is no small thing. So I had this kind of laid out, which I'm now going to stack up. And as is the case in a lot of ways, when you have a very busy or chaotic print and you're trying to figure out what to do with it, sometimes it's good to visualize. And I can sometimes do that just in my head. So where I'm going with this is I am just considering quilt patterns. And I looked at a number of them. And it seems like what people do with Kaffe Fabrics when it comes to quilt patterns is, and I said it earlier, it's like Kaffe on Kaffe on Kaffe. So they put Kaffe Fabrics next to Kaffe Fabrics from the same line, next to Kaffe Fabrics. And there's not a lot of sashing, not a lot of borders, unless it's just more from that line. I have looked at so many Kaffe Fassett quilt patterns. And I actually heard I saw an interview with him, and he says about his own quilts that he makes that he doesn't do a really complicated quilt pattern because he wants to highlight the fabrics, which makes total sense to me. Total sense to me. If you have such an interesting print and you cut it up into 27 pieces, you lose some of the beauty of the print itself. And so you don't do a really elaborate or small pieces. I mean, there are people who do, but he himself said his quilt patterns he uses bigger pieces and more simplified quilt patterns. So there's that tack, which is to just put a lot of Kaffe Fassett fabrics from the same line in the quilt pattern, and they just butt all up against each other, and it's just this kind of color wash. I have seen people fussy cut them. There's actually a quilt pattern called seed pattern. Seed packet. I knew there was another word in there. Seed packet quilt pattern, and it's for these large flowers, and you cut the flowers that you want, and then you just do a square of each flower, and it looks like seed packets from the garden. And they're beautiful. There's a cool seed packet quilt pattern, and there's a warmer one. And I have seen those made, and they are really, really pretty. And I've seen people do it in rainbow order as well. So there was one that I saw that it was half square triangles, but it was almost like a trip around the world. So it started off with yellow Kaffe fabrics and then kind of went yellow, orange, red, pink, et cetera, et cetera. And it was gorgeous. Very few people mix Kaffe Fassett fabrics with a lot of, almost no white. You almost see no white. And there's not a lot of mixing with other fabrics because it's challenging. So I really, I can't do what everybody else does. I don't know. My brain just doesn't work that way. So I decided that the thing to do is I have more shirt fabric than I have Kaffe fabric. And what I want to do is highlight the Kaffe fabric. So why don't I surround my Kaffe fabric with solid fabric? And because I couldn't get my head around it, I drew it out. And that's what's right here. So I started in one corner. This is a teal, and you can follow along and just see. And I did a little bit of just so that I could get a visual, but the rest I didn't color in. And I did this whole sheet to right here, and was like, well, I don't have this piece. So these were the fabrics that I had chosen. And I'm like, well, I'll just cut that off. And I thought, well, let me go back and look. And so I had 3 fabrics that were remaining. This one, and one that's behind me that it's kind of on the bottom. You're right, my left. No, yes, you're right, my left. That looks a little bit like Jupiter. And it really was the next step in this colorway. So kind of pinky, and I had these 2 and that one that's the Jupiter, and I was like, well, my goodness, what can I do with that? And so I dug through my stash and I found this, so you can see where I'm going with this, and kind of played around with the idea, do I want to do this or do I want to do this? And this is one of those that you have to open up because there's so much to it. And when I held that up to this fabric, I was like, this is it. This is beautiful and works too. But there's something about this to me that was just perfect. And so I wish I could find this in a shirt. And maybe I will before I start making it, maybe if I make it. But I just got that together and was like, look at that. And so there you have it. Kaffe Fassett meets thrift store shirts. And I don't know when I'll start on it because I have 13 million works in progress, 13 million whips that I need to get a handle on. And I have a child that's going to college and one that's about to have her gallbladder removed. So got a handful of stuff going on, but I'm actually super duper excited. I hope you can tell about this process. I think it's going to be really fun. I'm just going to do it and see what happens. And with a little luck, after this is done, then I will tackle the warm Kaffe Fassett fabrics that are behind me, maybe do something completely different, and we'll have a tale of 2 quilts, tale of 2 Kaffe Fassett quilts, and we'll see what shakes out. But anyway, that's my Kaffe Fassett, me, and the thrift store story. It's kind of long. I hope it has been entertaining for you. I hope if you have Kaffe fabrics that you've been wanting to use and you've thought, what can I do with this? Maybe this has given you some ideas. And who knows? Maybe I'll have a Kaffe Fassett quilt on the other side of this, and it'll open up a whole new world for me in quilting. I'm Kathy Martin. This is the Catbird Quilts. Thank you so much for watching.